How's it been going? How's it tracked in that time?
Well, it'd be fair to say it's been a lot more challenging than I thought it was, but there's also much more opportunity than I thought there was, and we've definitely made some significant progress. Like we've grown the revenue line a fair bit. We've got some costs and stuff under control, and got our margins under control.
If I was paying like $7 a piece of fruit, I'd want to make sure that piece of fruit was a damn good one.
Yeah, I was in Woolworths, Victoria Street in Auckland a couple of weeks ago. I saw some PIQA fruit there. It looked good. It stood out to me on the stand, even though I'm a little bit biased. I thought, I'm going to buy one of those pieces of fruit, and it cost me $2.80 for a single piece of fruit. But I can tell you, it was worth it. It was delicious.
Worth it. Right, I'm looking forward to our next guest on the program, having a chat with him, Tim Deane, who is owner and managing director of that wonderful New Zealand brand, Norsewear. It's great to have you on the program, Tim. How are you, man?
Oh, it's great to be here. Thanks very much for taking the time to be interested in what we're up to.
Yeah, very interested. Yeah, anything to do with New Zealand wool's an interesting story, I feel, anyway, at least, and I know that the listeners do as well. So just to set the scene, yourself and I guess it's the family, I suppose, sort of took this over, this brand, 2023-ish, I think, something like
that? I'd had 35 or 40 years in the corporate world, and there was a lot of talk, most of my time actually in the food and fibre industries, and there was always a lot of talk about adding value to commodities, but we didn't have that many examples of people that had done it. And so I'd sort of been hunting around and thinking, well, in the last part of my career, what could I do that would move from the talk to the action? So found Norsewear and persuaded my wife to let me take a big mortgage out on the house and bought it.
And here we are. How's it been going? How's it tracked in that time?
Well, it'd be fair to say it's been a lot more challenging than I thought it was, but there's also much more opportunity than I thought there was, and we've definitely made some significant progress. Like we've grown the revenue line a fair bit. We've got some costs and stuff under control, and got our margins under control, and so we're the bank's comfortable because we've done what we said we were going to do. We've increased capacity. We've employed more people. We've done a whole lot of work around product development. We've spent a whole bunch of time bringing the brand back to life. So overall, somebody asked me the other day, you don't need to tell anybody, Tim, but if you had your time again, would you still do it? And the answer is a resounding yes. Not because we're making money hand over fist and I'll end up in a big debt chair on a Pacific Island. I mean, we're basically putting everything back into the business, but it is very rewarding. I think the plan's working, and as a result of that, you get a lot of joy from that.
Yeah, so you're not going to have one of those Jeff Bezos yachts anytime soon. However,
no, I'm not. But at the same time, what we're trying to prove here, and we are proving, is that there's big shifts in what consumers are looking for, and there's big changes in advanced manufacturing technology, which mean that what we're trying to do actually does make sense here in New Zealand. If you go back to the 90s and the 2000s, where a lot of those tariff barriers protecting the apparel industry were removed, and then you just saw industry disappear, and all of apparel, including the woolen apparel, was replaced by imports from Asia.
Mm.
The tide really is turning now, and certainly in that premium segment, the consumer wants what we've got. And so as long as we do a good job, I think there's a big opportunity.
So when you came in a few years ago, did you sense that was shifting? Had it shifted at that time, or is this a thing that's sort of come on in terms of, we'll deal with the consumer preferences first? what was the landscape around that?
No, I guess the reason for doing it was that I could see that consumer preferences were changing fast, and I could also see that there were changes to technology, which meant that certainly for the business that we're in, as long as you stay up at that premium end, you can compete.
Mm.
So, we were seeing people much more interested, and this has accelerated since then. So, people are much more focused on authentic brands. There's so much AI slop and people that make stuff up. So, a real authentic brand with history and heritage, but also a heritage of innovation. People were looking for stuff that was better value for money. So that doesn't mean cheaper. It means that it was more durable, it lasted longer, it was functional, it did what it said on the can. And then people are increasingly, and also distributors and retailers, interested in shorter value chains from raw material through to finished goods, because if you look at the geopolitical tensions around the world, which are getting bigger and bigger, and these very, very big long supply chains and huge lead times, that's quite a risk for retailers and distributors. And certainly more and more consumers want to understand whether or not the stuff that they buy is produced sustainably, ethically, responsibly, and is of quality. So all of those trends sort of played into what we're trying to do here.
So you mentioned two things. One was the consumer preference. The other was sort of, I guess, the manufacturing side of things. How's that changed, or what was the landscape like with that when you came into it?
Well, like back in the day, pretty well anything to do with apparel, there was a huge labour component. So there was a lot of people that were required to drive sewing machines. Now, if you look at, and it was the same to an extent with socks, but if you have a look at our new endurance lightweight running sock, that's made on a very, very expensive Italian 3D knitting machine that makes the whole thing from start to finish itself. I mean, you have to have technicians that can program it and maintain it, but there's a pair of those plops out of this machine every 7 minutes. Then you have to obviously check each one by hand, which we do, and then you have to press them and finish them by hand. But the labour component is much less than it used to be. You take this jumper I've got on. This is a 23 micron South Island merino jumper that is made in New Zealand on a Shimaseki flatbed knitting machine. There's no seams in this. Basically, the tech sorted it out, push go. 45 minutes later, this jumper popped out. Now, you still have to sew the zip in and sew the label in the back and stuff, but there's no waste. There's no cutting sheets of fabric and then throwing the bits away. This is all in one lot. So you've got a jumper here that, because of new technology, the labour component is much less than it was before. And these are very advanced machines that you've got to have very clever people, way cleverer than me, to run them. But that changes the playing field, because the thing that made it difficult for us to compete, which is the cost of labour, is much less now than it was. So that's quite interesting, I reckon.
And the material waste, as you say, as well. It's only using what it needs to effectively.
Absolutely.
Yeah, which is a really good thing. Is that one of the new the Paeroa quarter zips? Is that what you're wearing?
Yeah, it is. We've obviously been focused on socks, gloves, and beanies ever since I started, but we've noticed as we've got into it that there's quite a lot of demand for really high quality, made in New Zealand, authentic apparel as well. And so we thought we'd have a go at this. So this Paeroa is basically a heritage reissue of a design that Norsewear produced 40 years ago, probably.
Oh, wow.
We've made it current. And then it's the first jumper that we've made in New Zealand since 2007.
It looks quite light too. Is it quite a light thing?
Yeah, it's about a 300 grams per square metre, 300 GSM jumper. So it's it's not what you'd wear out in the car shed. This is more a date night jumper, or the bank manager or the fertiliser rep might rock up wearing one of these. So I've been wearing this one for over a year. We've been sort of 12 or 18 months in development. We've now got Beef and Lamb New Zealand's field teams wearing them, Balance Agri-Nutrients, their field teams wearing them. And then last week we launched these to the general public.
Oh, fantastic. And yeah, so what are they? Navy, is that a black one or is that a navy?
Yeah, this is a black, yeah, of course. New Zealanders are very conservative. So we've got two colours, navy and black.
And black.
But we do have, we've got men's cut, women's cut, and we've got a huge range of sizes. So, this is more of a classic staple than a fast fashion statement, but we've designed this to last a long time and, and to work well with everything.
It's a good time to release it. My God, it's cold at the moment. It's like it went from bloody sort of late summer into winter. We kind of skipped autumn, certainly where I am anyway. And I've heard from other parts of the country as well. It's a good time to be putting these out in the market for the general public, I reckon.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit odd because, we sell, woolen socks, gloves, beanies, and now jumpers. And so I get quite excited when it gets cold.
You're one of them. Okay. Yeah. Oh, they exist, those people. I'm not one of them, but I actually, I might be in the market since it's the interesting thing about the New Zealand merino clothing. You mentioned other people as well. I mean, you got Mons Royale and another one that's obvious that I'm blanking on at the moment, but you know what I'm saying. So it's like I think you're right. The people are into that quality side of it at the moment because why wouldn't you be? Because you get one of these, right, and it might be what $250, $300, something like that, but it's going to last.
I mean, it's just under $300 retail, and then of course if you're Beef and Lamb and you buy a whole lot of them, we can do a deal. It is. It's about the same as what you'd pay for an imported garment that's made somewhere else.
Yeah, but my point being, it's going to last you a long time, right?
Yeah, and there's not that many of us that are actually manufacturing in New Zealand. Most of the brands that we think of as New Zealand brands do now manufacture offshore. So, in the case of Norsewear, we're all about things that last for a very long time, perform really well. We're not, fast fashion, super trendy. It's more classical. And it's function over form, and that's sort of the niche that we play in. And it turns out that there's quite a lot of people that are interested in product like that.
Yeah, exactly. Not NZRU, unfortunately, with the wool beanies. I note that you tried to get the official beanies in merino wool, which I think would have been bloody awesome. But as I understand it, just having a wee read, it's kind of down to current commercial agreements that they've got in the market anyway.
Yeah, look, we did have a good chat to them. They sort of the headwear was kind of tied up with existing commercial arrangements. We then had a bit of a chat about socks. That was possible, but again, the arrangements around distribution were tied up. So if we were to do all black socks, you'd want to actually get them into the websites that the rugby union's got for fan gear. You'd want to get them in the stores that are at the stadiums, and it just turned out we couldn't actually get our product into those channels. So it didn't really work for us. But, I understand you can't win them all.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
We're growing like mad without that. So, obviously there's other opportunities to chase.
Well, yeah, especially in the sporting realm, I feel as well, because, lightweight merino is, something that, runners are looking for. You got the socks and things like that. Is there anything else in the pipeline that you can kind of, give us a hint about today? Or
so like Norsewear was actually born in the outdoors, and it was for people that work and play in the outdoors. So we're very strong in that workwear space, farming, the famous Farm Flex sock, that a version of which Edmund Hillary wore when he climbed up Aoraki Mount Cook. So, but what we have been focused on is getting right back into those that play in the outdoors. So we know that people that buy our stuff, they love, hiking, fishing, hunting, mountain biking, skiing, snowboarding, mountaineering, and walking. So we spent bunch of time developing this new endurance multi-sport lightweight merino sock, which is we tested with ultra marathon runners. We've done quite a bit of work in the hiking space, and then we were fortunate enough to pitch for and win the New Zealand Defence Force contract for their combat socks. So we've used what we learned there, and we will be launching the Norsewear expedition range based on the stuff that we're selling the Defence Force, which will be really, really interesting for those New Zealanders that like to go on expeditions, and it's more than just a day walk. They might be right out in the backcountry somewhere. So that's coming up, and then there's a few other things that are in the pipeline as well, which I'll just keep my powder dry on.
Oh, fair enough too, but I like that one. Yeah, the Defence Force one is pretty good. And why not?
I think if you step back and think about what we're trying to do here, there's some positive impacts on the country as a whole, which we often don't think about. So if I have a look at when I bought the company, we were just buying yarn, standard yarn from spinners, and I couldn't tell exactly where the wool had come from. So we spent a whole lot of time working in partnership with PGG Wrights and their wool team, who I've got to say have been magnificent. And we now have Norsewear contracts directly with New Zealand wool growers.
Yeah, right.
And then we're controlling the process right through to the spinner and getting the wool back again. So there's a whole lot of nice stuff around sustainability, but the thing that's really surprised me is the increase in the quality of the yarn, because the traditional normal supply chain has people all the way through it clipping the ticket and also adding lower quality wools into the good stuff to meet the price. And so we've got rid of all the people clipping the ticket in the middle, and we've got rid of all this blending of poorer quality stuff, which means we end up with a much better yarn at the other end, which then makes much better product. And because we've cut the middle people out, we're also we aim to try and pay a little bit more than the going rate to sheep farmers as well. So that's positive, because it means that as a result of what we've done, we're buying more high quality wool from New Zealand wool growers too. But then we've also invested a whole heap of money in new machines, and we've employed more people in our factory in Norsewood in the Southern Hawke's Bay. So what that means is that there's more people with jobs, and they're obviously paying tax and contributing to the local economy.
Yeah.
Then we've pulled back from offshore back onto onshore the suppliers of other things that we use. So, for example, we buy all of our packaging now from Brebner Print and Napier. So they have got a lift in the amount of business that's going through them, which positively impacts their business in that local community. And then, of course, we have to pay tax as well. And if we do better and pay more tax, that feeds through to the New Zealand economy. And I have to hand it to the Defence Force and their supply partner ADA, because we won that contract because our stuff outperformed the American alternative, which is good. We got quite excited about that. But the other thing is that winning that contract on merit has given us additional confidence to invest more, because we've got that. We know that's there. We're going to do our very best to give them the best possible products and services, but that's given us the confidence to invest. And so it's kind of like a virtuous cycle where it's building on itself. And I think we completely underestimate the value of regional manufacturing to the economy. And the other thing that I think we underestimate, certainly in the food and fibre sector, is the value of brands. Because, obviously I'm focused on building a strong brand and then getting a brand premium so I can make all of these things happen. But often brands can help improve value in commodity sectors as well. So if you go back to 1986, New Zealand was exporting less than $10 million of wine. And then an Australian teamed up with a Kiwi, and they borrowed $1 $1 million, which is about $3.7 million today. They borrowed $1 million, ignored all the experts who said Marlborough's too cold, too dry, too stony, and they borrowed some gear, bought some grapes, and the first vintage of Cloudy Bay Sauvignon Blanc started. And then if you look 40 years later, we're exporting over $2 billion worth of wine. And it all started because a couple of blokes had the guts to ignore the experts and build a brand. And a whole industry has built around that. Now, that's what we've got to think about here in New Zealand. If we're wanting premium, if we're wanting good returns for our premium food and premium fibre, we've got to think about how brands play into that and how good brands can help the ingredients part of the sector as well. So I suppose more than anything else, I'm excited about seeing whether or not we can do that at Norsewear. I mean, it would be a bit arrogant, but wouldn't it be great if, in 10 years' time, we were known as the Cloudy Bay of the wool industry?
How good though. That's but I love why not have the aspiration? You're right in the fact that the blueprint is there. The place that we will play in the future is in the premium market, whether or not it's steak or jerseys. It just doesn't, that's where we're going to be. So yeah, why not? I think it's your excitement for that is palpable. Actually, I like it. I think it's a bloody. Well, I mean, why else would you be doing it, right?
I'm definitely not doing it because it's the most lucrative thing in the world. But the thing is, like, if you can get up, I mean, it's not hard for me to get out of bed each morning getting excited about something like that. Because if we can build something for New Zealand, bring goodness back home by taking Norsewear to the world, then that's fantastic.
How good, Tim Deane. I love it. I think it's a great attitude, and I'm sure there's other people within the industry that are equally as excited. I hope there is anyway. So
we're certainly very happy. We've sort of sorted out this value chain for wool, and there's an open invitation for others that want to join us. We're sort of ironed out most of the wrinkles. It'd be great if there were a number of New Zealand companies that wanted to work alongside us in this space. That the world's a big place. And we need not worry so much about competing with each other. Our competition is actually imports and offshore people. I mean, shivers, this country imports 75 or 80% of all the socks that we use each year.
Is that right?
So I'm not actually worried about other New Zealand sock makers. I'm worried about the competitors. And every sock that I sell domestically displaces an import.
Yeah.
So that's good. That's as good as an export when you look at the balance of payments.
Yeah, it's interesting that you're talking like this because there's a similar discussion going on in the food sector when it comes to domestic production. Being able to feed the domestic population, we export so much. It's a really interesting thing that New Zealand's actually having this conversation. I feel like we're on the cusp of something here. Early days maybe, but not dissimilar to what you're talking about in the fibre sector.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's desperately upsetting to see Waddy shutting down, McCain shutting down, and the traditional wisdom is, we just can't compete with big offshore manufacturers. But then you have a look at the brand positioning, and what these folks are trying to do is they're trying to compete in the everyday space. And so, like, there's been 2 sock factories have shut down since I started. Both of them, we're trying to compete with Chinese imports, which is just not where you play.
Exactly.
We've got, if we're growing premium food, we have to sell it in premiumly branded in a premium way. So, I went into the supermarket, looked at some Watty's frozen spinach, and right next to it was this small New Zealand brand called Oob. It was the same stuff in the bag, and Oob was selling it for 3 times the price.
Yeah.
It was still selling. Now, not everyone's going to buy it, but there's a portion of the market that will.
Yeah.
And that's the portion that is New Zealanders we need to be thinking about when it comes to our food or our fibre. I mean, look at Antipodes water. Like, it's water, for goodness sake. And it's 6 times more expensive. I was in a supermarket the day looking at it. It was 6 times more expensive than home brand sparkling water. They were next to each other on the shelf. Now, good on Antipodes because they understood the consumer, they got the branding right, they got the design of the bottle right. They're not just meeting the functional needs of water, they're also tapping into the consumer's emotive needs, their social. They understand the value of brand.
Mm.
And as a country, I think we're really good at exporting commodities. I've spent most of my life in that space, but we underestimate what we've got, and we underestimate how, with some careful and thoughtful branding, quality product, and the right sort of positioning, we can go up that value chain. So you can tell I'm a bit excited about this.
Well, that's what I said. I think
This is where I see the future of moving from volume to value.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. And it's been really good to get your perspective on things. Tim, we'll do it again sometime. That was good fun. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, here's one for you about making pears sexy again. The PIQA Red pear has been bred over a couple of decades by Hawke's Bay company Prevar. And we've got Chief Executive Tony Martin to run us through exactly what that journey's been like and what the result is. Good to have you back on the show. How are you, Tony?
Oh, great. Thanks, Dominic. Great to be back.
So tell me, 2 decades in the making. I dare say you probably weren't around 2 decades ago in that particular role to get the ball rolling on it. But what's your understanding of the process over that 20-odd year period?
Yeah, that's right. I've been with Prevar for 5 years. So by the time I came on board, things were well and truly in motion. But the really clever and forward-looking breeders who were part of the Plant and Food Research team based here in Hawke's Bay and down in Motueka had a great vision probably about 25 years ago, actually, about how the fact that there had been really no innovation in the pear category at all for probably about 100 years. Whereas at the same time, apples were moving on and all sorts of new apple varieties were coming along. And so they thought, well, what can we do to make pears really interesting again and get people back eating this fantastic fruit? And so they took 3 different types of pears, a Japanese pear, a Chinese pear, and a European pear. And over a period of time, through different breeding cycles, they came up with this amazing piece of fruit that takes the best out of those different 3 varieties. So it's a pretty unique and pretty special piece of fruit because European pears always have a lot of flavour, but they can go a bit mushy. Or they can be rock hard, as you've experienced. And then Chinese and Japanese pears both have this incredible juiciness and crispness. And so you get all of those things combined into one piece of fruit, which is amazing.
So, it sounds brilliant. So tell me about the current situation. As I understand, there's been a record harvest of this new pear variety. How long's it kind of been around for? Is this the first harvest or?
No, PIQA Red was actually first commercialised well over 10 years ago now.
Okay. Wow.
So we've had growers growing it in New Zealand for some time. And, just like any new fruit variety, often it takes a little while for it to gain some momentum because growers have to take a risk when they plant trees of a new variety because they don't know necessarily how it's going to perform, how's it going to be received by the market. About more than 10 years ago, we had our first growers planted trees in New Zealand, and it's slowly been building a great following. And then a couple of years ago, we had some new growers come into the mix in New Zealand as well. So then the number of trees planted is just starting to expand. And the more trees planted, obviously, the more fruit you get. So this year's crop is looking really, really good and certainly the highest one we've had to date.
In terms of the economics of it, is it true? I'm reading something that says it's fetching a staggering $7 per fruit. That's $4 per pear. Is that right?
Yeah. So in markets like China and the premium end of the Chinese market, it is a premium product. So at its best, PIQA Red is a bright red, beautiful, absolutely beautiful looking piece of fruit. And for those that are familiar with how things work in China, often fruit is given as a gift. So rather than taking around a bottle of wine to somebody's house, you might take around a beautiful piece of fruit. And therefore, people are prepared to pay a good price for something that is really premium and unique. So we have seen prices at that level for single pieces of fruit, which for us here in New Zealand are pretty astounding. But we consume fruit in a different way to how it works in those parts of the world.
Sure. So if I'm buying it here, though, what am I looking at per piece of fruit?
So at the moment, in New Zealand supermarkets, you can probably buy it for somewhere between $8 and $12 a kilo, depending on time of year and how much fruit's available.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking if I was paying like $7 a piece of fruit, I'd want to make sure that piece of fruit was a damn good one and it wasn't going to, do anything funny on me. So
yeah, I was in Woolworths, Victoria Street in Auckland a couple of weeks ago. I saw some PIQA fruit there. It looked good. It stood out to me on the stand, even though I'm a little bit biased. I thought, I'm going to buy one of those pieces of fruit, and it cost me $2.80 for a single piece of fruit. But I can tell you, it was worth it. It was delicious.
Worth it. Yeah. Okay. That's good. So, what's the characteristics when you had it? What was different to the normal pear? I mean, obviously, it's combining all the things that you said earlier from the three different varieties. But what was it like as an eating experience? Set the scene for us.
Yeah, well, first things first, like consumers buy with their eyes. So it is visually appealing. So at its best, it's bright red, really stands out on the shelf, and it's a typical pyriform pear shape. So looks like a pear. As I said before, one of the challenges with European pears often is that you buy them in the supermarket and they're rock hard, and you put them in the fruit bowl and you wait, and you wait, and you wait, and then it's ready. And if you don't eat it then and it's too late, then it goes mushy.
Yeah.
The good thing about the PIQA pears is I ate the one that I bought the other day. I ate it on the way out of the supermarket. It's ready to eat, so you don't have to wait. By the same token, you can also keep it and store it, and it will hold its flavor and hold its crunchiness. So it's that ready to eat component of it, which is a real game changer for pears in a lot of ways. Some people like eating rock hard pears, but you don't get a lot of flavor when it's rock hard. Some people like eating mushy pears. Good luck to them. I don't like mushy pears, but with PIQA, you can eat it whenever you like.
Okay, that's really interesting. So it was developed in Nelson in collaboration with Bioeconomy Science Institute. And are they mostly grown there, are they? Or are they grown in Hawke's Bay as well? Whereabouts in New Zealand do they grow?
Yeah, so all the breeding work was done down in Motueka near Nelson. But we have a good number of growers in Hawke's Bay. In Nelson, we've got fruit grown down in Central Otago. And we've actually got a smattering of growers in the central North Island as well. We've got multiple different sites now.
Now, you've sort of talked about the fact that you want it to be the new avocado and get people excited about it. Say the category's been struggling a bit. Is it? Why is that? I always thought the pears are there. They're just pears. People still buy them, even though there's the odd, issue with them as you've described. That's just kind of fruit in general. But has it been a bit of a decline, has it?
Yeah, so the number of pear growers in New Zealand has dropped off significantly over the last 25 years, really. And again, a lot of it is because of the fact there's been not a lot of innovation. And so if you're just growing classic commodity pears, and we export most of our fruit from New Zealand, then you're competing in a commodity market with those same pears turning up from South Africa or Chile or other markets. So that makes it pretty hard for growers in New Zealand to make money because our costs of production are much higher. So bringing a new type of pear in, like PIQA, brings some excitement back into the industry. It can fetch a premium price because it is very unique. And again, it solves that problem, which is the consumer problem, which is an eating experience. It makes the eating experience much better.
So we look at, and we always group apples and pears together, don't we? Apples and pears, it's the apple and pear board or whatever it is these days, that sort of thing. So the export of them then, so what's the breakdown of like apples to pears in terms of what we sell overseas?
So at the moment, it's probably about more than 95% apples.
Wow.
Less than 5% pears. So there's a big opportunity to bring more pear growers back on board in New Zealand, and again with a new category, new type of product. Then that's what we're really excited about.
Right. So then, presumably, the global value of apples would far outweigh the global value of pears at the moment.
Yeah. So the global apple industry is worth about $100 billion. and the pear industry is about 30 billion. So
There you go. Yeah.
more than 3 times as big. And it kind of makes sense because apples are a staple everyday snack food. Pears haven't always played that exact same role.
Now, the thing about the export of them, where like obviously they're going into Asian markets. Is there anywhere else they're going into?
So we have exported some to Europe before. We've got a little market for our PIQA pears in Europe, into the UK as well. We've definitely got interest in the Middle East, so in the UAE. So we've sold some in Dubai before, and we've got interest in India now as well. So,
Oh yes, the FTA, of course. Yeah. But that's you would that be a benefit, obviously, to apples and pears? Would that be something that's good for that sector?
100%. So India's already been a very fast-growing market for New Zealand apple exports over the last few years. It's a top 5 export market for us already. But there's so much opportunity for additional growth in India. So that free trade agreement is a real bonus, and on the back of a lot of hard work over many, many years, I might say. So I think it's very exciting for New Zealand as a country.
When it comes, there's a lot of work, as you've alluded to, that's been done in the Apple sector that has really. We just spoke with Shane Kingston from T&G about the Envy Apple last week or the week before, and what a success story that is. I guess you're looking to sort of, it's there, isn't it? It's if it can be achieved, as you say, a bit of R&D, bit of time and effort, and all that sort of stuff. You're confident that you can get this pear up to lofty heights, as it were, Tony.
Yeah, no, I think the Envy story is an amazing one. To have $1 billion brand out of New Zealand is a great success story. And I think that having that aspiration and ambition for what we can produce from New Zealand as a small population-wise country, but a country that has big ambitions and big credibility on the world stage as well when it comes to what we're able to produce with the world-class science that we have, with the breeding programs we have, and with our ability to build global brands. So we're absolutely thinking big when we think about what we can do with PIQA, and we're inspired by the likes of what has been the success story of Envy.
I think the last time we spoke with you, Tony, it was in relation to the gene editing legislation. It might have been last year or even the year before, actually, and when it was sort of just being first kind of spoken about. A lot of water's gone under the bridge there in terms of the conversation, but not a lot of progress has really been made. Where do you sit on it now, sort of a year and a half down the track or whatever it is?
Yeah, so there was a lot of consultation done. There was a select committee put in place, lots of conversations across different industries, but there's still a little bit of a hold up around some pushback on how the regulatory framework will work and whether or not the settings are the right settings for New Zealand as a country. So one political party in particular has raised some red flags about that. So it's still in conversation, still in motion. From our perspective, from Prevar's perspective, we still absolutely believe it's the right thing to do for the apple or the horticulture industry. But also mindful that we're not the only industry that will be impacted by that change in regulation. So it's just an interesting time at the moment because all of our other pear countries around the world, pear as in P-E-E-R, not P-A.
Right, not the eating variety. Yes, sure.
Have already adopted gene technology regulations, including the EU, which typically is a very conservative block of countries, and they've adopted gene tech regulation as well. So New Zealand is a bit of an outlier at the moment, the fact that we don't have gene tech regulation. So our concern, our worry is that if it doesn't happen in New Zealand, that we may end up being left behind when it comes to being able to utilise technology alongside conventional breeding programs to stay competitive. So it's an interesting time because we don't know exactly how it's going to play out. But we're certainly very supportive still of that bill.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Yeah, I mean, everyone's entitled to their position. I mean, just for me, it probably, like you've just alluded to, it's the kind of the unintended consequence part, I guess, which is the bit that might be scaring people a little bit as well. Yeah, fascinating.
Mm.
Fascinating landscape. But we watch and see how it all plays out. In the meantime, go and get the PEAR variety from your supermarket, the PIQA Red pear. I haven't actually tried it yet, so and I'm a massive fruit fan, so I'm going to have to probably go and check it out. But Tony, it's been good to have you on the show, man, and just explaining that. All the best with it. I hope it works.
Oh, thanks very much, Dominic. And yeah, don't worry. I'm sure we'll be able to find a way to get some pears to you.
Okay, man. Thanks, mate. Appreciate your time.
All right. All the best. Cheers.
Thanks for watching. As always, everybody, don't forget new episodes every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. And of course, like, comment, and subscribe.